Hello and welcome to Outpost Virtual Series. Today we will be live streaming a Skillshare with Sabi Kerr. My name is Robert and I would like to thank you all for tuning in. Outpost is continuing to launch new virtual events each week to help keep our community active, engaged, and connected during these times. Next week on Tuesday, we will be live streaming a Skillshare led by Sarav Ara on the happiness of pursuit, diving into topics around finding purpose and fulfillment as a digital nomad. So I encourage you all to go follow our Outpost Facebook page so you guys can RSVP for that event and also stay updated on the new events that we'll be rolling out. The topic for tonight's Skillshare is freedom from limiting beliefs, led by Sabi Kerr. Sabi is a self-love, transformational life coach and yoga teacher. Her mission is to guide as many people as possible back to their natural essence, a place of deep self-love, self-acceptance, and joy. So I'll drop a link to all of her contact information and Instagram handle in the comment section so you guys can stay up to date on what she's up to and connect with her there. Also, feel free to say hello and what part of the world you guys are tuning in from. We always love to hear from our community. If you guys have any questions throughout the Skillshare, please drop them in the comment section. I'll make sure to get those answered throughout the Skillshare. So I encourage you to do so. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Sabi to jump in and kick things off. Enjoy your Skillshare, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that intro and for having me here. Super excited to share with you guys.
It's a pleasure. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, super excited. This is such a big topic, and it's such a big topic always, but even more so when the world is slowing down and everything is grinding to a halt. Because this is the time when our deepest, darkest wounds get brought to the surface. Our deepest fears, limiting beliefs, conditioning gets shown to us. So this is such a powerful time for anyone that's watching for you to start to dive into this. So yeah, really excited to share.
We're happy to have you. I'll let you kick things off. Everyone enjoy.
Cool. So thank you. As I was introduced, I'm a self-love and transformational life coach, and it really is my greatest passion to guide women to deeply love themselves and feel worthy of the things that they want to call in. And that really is the biggest shifter to being able to manifest your deepest desires. And I always say, what is it that you're desiring? What is it that you're wanting in your life? For a lot of people in the Outpost community, it might be growing your business. For a lot of people in general, it could be money abundance, it could be healthy relationships, it could be a healthy body, like all of these external things that we are desiring. For us to be able to work towards those things, we first need to see what is blocking us. And most of the time, if not all of the time, it is not something outside of ourselves that is blocking us. It is us that is blocking us. We are often the ones that are getting in the way. It's the limiting beliefs that we hold. It's deep conditioning and patterns that have been built up over time. And we have the power to release them if we know how to. And it all starts with building a deeper awareness of what's going on for us. So if anyone does have any questions throughout, or if I ask you anything, please feel free to drop them in the comments. I actually can see them, but there is a little lag. So we'll see how we go with that. So this is a time, like I said, a time where our biggest stuff is being brought up. And although it can feel uncomfortable, there is a deep, great power for us now being able to look at this stuff. It is like almost, it's really, we can see it as a gift that we are being called to look at the things that have been holding us back. Now we get to work through it. So if there is anything that you're struggling with right now, if stuff has come up that feels uncomfortable, I invite you to, first of all, honor that discomfort, but know that all of those uncomfortable things and feelings can be a gift if we allow them to be. I'm going to share a a quote. I'm a big fan of quotes, so I'll share this one to get us started. Not only do you become what you think about, but the world also becomes what you think about. Those who think that the world is a dark place are blind to the light that might illuminate their lives. Those who see the light of the world view the dark spots as merely potential light. It's this idea that our thoughts are everything. We become what we think about, but also those people around us become what we think about. We have the power to take back control of our lives and our desires if we start to look at the quality of our thoughts. And that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be diving into our thought patterns, our beliefs, what has been holding us back from getting the things that we really want. So first of all, I'm going to give some examples of some limiting beliefs, and we're actually going to talk about what they are. And then throughout this, those of you that are watching live, which is definitely a couple of you, those of you that are watching live, I want this to be a practical process. So if you don't already, go and get yourself a journal and a pen or something that you can write with so that you can actually do this stuff with me. This isn't just a passive sit and watch and like you'll do it later. If you're watching live, I want you to do it now. If you're watching on the replay, I want you to do it while you're watching it on the replay so you already can start to work through this stuff. So I'm just going to give a couple of examples, first of all, of some big limiting beliefs, and then we're going to dive into what they are. A key thing to note is whatever you're working on in your life right now, whether it's something to do with your business and making money, whether it's something to do with your relationship, there is actually no separation. The things that are holding us back in our business are often the same things that are holding us back in our relationships. So by healing your limiting beliefs in your business, you heal your relationships, you heal lots of other parts of your life too. So it's like you're winning. There's so many bonuses by healing one part of your life. So a couple of examples. Making money is hard. I can't trust anyone, otherwise I'll get hurt. These are just some examples of limiting beliefs, and I'm going to come back to these two in a moment. A belief system is nothing more than a thought that you've thought over and over again, and at some point with that repetition, we accept it as a truth. So a belief, it's a belief about ourselves, about others, about the world, that limits us in some way, right? It keeps us where we are. It holds us back from opportunities. It stops us seeing just how powerful we really are. They keep you stuck. They stop you getting to where you want to be. They are often buried deep in our subconscious mind. And this is why they're really hard to release, because a lot of the time, we're not even aware that they're there. We're not even aware that these deep limiting thoughts and beliefs are under the surface, wreaking havoc in so many different areas of our lives. That's why the key part of this work is simple awareness, simply knowing that this thought is getting in your way. A belief, it starts as a thought, and then a thought becomes a belief when that thought has been repeated over and over until the subconscious mind accepts it as a truth, right? And often these beliefs are formed from early experiences, things that maybe had a big impact on us. And then what we do, the mind likes to mess with us. What we do, we start to seek other bits of evidence that back up our limiting belief. And I'm going to talk about that more as we go through, because that's a really key ingredient for us to see why we've been holding on to them. So bearing that in mind, I'm going to give you a couple of stories, and then we're going to dive into which ones might be there for you. And I'm going to give some stories from different parts of our lives so that you, hopefully, wherever you are in the world right now, whatever it is that you're working on, whether it's a personal thing, whether it's a business thing, whether it's a money thing, you can see that these work similarly. So we'll look at the making money is hard one, and we'll look at I can't trust anyone, otherwise I'll get hurt. Making money is hard. Say that that's a belief that you have that now is really getting in the way of you stepping up in your business. first of all, we need to acknowledge that that is not truth, that's just a story, that's just a belief. And I'm going to just tell these two stories with some fictional characters. These are ones I see a lot in clients that I work with, but we're going to give them some fictional character names. So say, let's call him John. I mean, that's a standard name, right? Clearly, I couldn't think of any other guy's name apart from John. Let's say John grew up in a family that were super hardworking. They didn't have much money. They worked so hard. Money was always short. They couldn't, get expensive things. From early on, he had this feeling that money is scarce. We need to be really careful with it, and it's hard to get a lot of it. So he'd grown up right from kind of day one with this money story, that it wasn't safe to have a lot of money, and also making money was challenging. And from the beginning, him having that money story shifted or impacted the way he showed up in his business, the way he got on the phone with potential clients, the way he valued the work that he was putting out there into the world. Similarly, with the second one, I can't trust anyone, otherwise I'll get hurt. And I'm going to come back to these examples later as I dive a little deeper. This is just a general outline. Say this person, I used this example in a workshop earlier in the week, so we'll call her the same name, Sophia. And I've worked with a lot of women that have this limiting belief. I can't trust anyone, otherwise I'll get hurt. Say Sophia in her early relationship was cheated on really badly. And that guy left her feeling like she was in so much pain, and she started to kind of to close a little because she didn't want to feel that pain again, right? She then had a process of a couple more relationships where she was hurt badly again, and it got to the point where she was just like, this isn't working, all guys are cheaters, I can't trust anyone, I don't want to let anyone in, otherwise I'm going to get hurt. So that became that initial thought that was reinforced from experiences that were true, by the way. They reinforced that initial belief that she had, that initial thought that she had, sorry. It became a belief, and it then led her to putting up this total wall that stopped her from letting people in. So just bear in mind these examples as we move through. So what I'm going to share with you is some common limiting beliefs. And as I share these ones, I want you right now, whether you're watching live with me, whether you're catching this on the replay, I want you to be thinking through which ones feel like they're relevant to me. And by the way, most of us have lots of limiting beliefs going on all at once. So there might be multiple of these that are fitting where you're at the moment. I have to change X before I can do Y. This idea of like, I have to change something, this one thing, these many things about myself, about my situation before I can do this other thing. It might look like in a dating situation, I need to lose more weight before I go on this date, or I need to like fix up my acne before I start dating again. It could look like I need to get more qualifications before I'm ready for that job, right? And as I'm talking through these, I would love if you're watching live, just to like give me like a high five, or to share any limiting beliefs that you're feeling at this moment. I would love to know, if you're watching live or on the replay, actually, I would love to know which ones are feeling really strong for you. I always like to know which ones right now are going on for people. If I ask for what I want, I'll get rejected. This feeling that we can't be our true selves. If we are who we really are, it's not going to be accepted. And there are different patterns that are kind of embedded behind this. So that one might be a fear of rejection that's behind that limiting belief. The first one, I have to change something before I can do this thing. Often that's a feeling of perfectionism, like I need to get this thing perfect before I can go and do what I want to do. It could also be, some deep, not good enough stories going on. So more examples. Kyle says, and I know this is a little delay, I lack motivation, willpower. I'm going to talk about that one in a moment, Kyle. Thank you. I I don't have enough experience. I don't know enough. This is such a big one. I mean, in all areas of life, but especially if you're like starting a business, right? Especially in the work that I do as a coach, and this is so especially if there are any other coaches that are diving into this feeling of like constantly looking at Instagram and looking online and seeing what everyone else is doing, and it making you feel like you don't have enough experience. So that's kind of a pattern of comparison going on in the background. Making money is hard. I think I talked about that one. If I'm my real self, I'll be judged. This feeling that if we truly show who we are, it's not going to be accepted. It's too late for me to pursue my dreams. I can't trust anyone. I'm not worthy and deserving of this thing. I'm not good enough. All guys are cheaters. I talked about that one. I lack motivation and willpower. Quickly to touch on that one, as I know Carl mentioned it. Often it's not that we lack motivation or willpower. It's that has become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Maybe there was a time when you did feel, pretty lazy. Maybe there was a period where you did lack motivation. That was maybe true. Remember, these limiting beliefs are based on things that did actually happen, right? They're not just created out of thin air. They're based on experiences that did actually happen. And then those experiences get reinforced over time by other experiences. Maybe whether that's you or someone else that feels like they lack motivation, maybe friends, family commented on it like, you're kind of lazy. You're like hanging around, not doing too much again. Maybe you started to say that to yourself. And before long, you begin to act out the limiting belief. You begin to prove the limiting belief right because of something called cognitive dissonance. And I'm going to come to that in a moment. So those are some common limiting beliefs. And at the root of these, I just saw, Eva said definitely the not good enough stuff. And that's at the root of most of these is that I'm not good enough. At the root of, if I ask for what I want, I'll get rejected, is that feeling of I can't really say what I really want. I can't really express my true needs. Are my true needs as valid as the other person's? At the root of that, there's some kind of not good enough feeling. And it's the same for almost all of them. So that's why doing work on worthiness is super powerful. So with those in mind, I'd love you to now, again, whether it's live or on the replay, use this time right now. This is not a passive live stream where you sit and don't take it in. I want you to actually use this time, and I'm going to be giving you a bit of time as we move through this to think about how this shows up in your life. So the first step, I'm going to take you through a 3-step process to start to release this stuff that has been holding you back for a long time. Most of the time, these have been in our systems for a long, long time. And step 1 is a really simple step: identifying the belief. Identifying the belief, because like I said earlier, most people aren't even aware that these beliefs have been playing out in their lives. So just some pointers if you're still unsure of what these beliefs might be for you. Start to notice what goes on in your language and in your thinking when you're making excuses, when you feel yourself making excuses, like I can't do that because, or that kind of language. Notice when you get stuck in negative thoughts. Notice when you worry or when you complain, what's going on there. Notice when you're talking to yourself unkindly, when you close off options, right? When you kind of don't even allow things to go down, when you express your fears. Those are some good things to be thinking about when you're starting to build that level of awareness. So, can you identify a belief that you have that we can now work through? And I'm going to stop talking for 30 seconds to a minute to give you some time to have a think. So use this next 30 seconds to think about which one you would like to work through now. If you are joining live, I would love if you could put it in the comments as well, so I can see which ones those of you that are joining us live are working through. And I might even be able to help you with a few of them live as well as we go through. So yeah, take the next 30 seconds to a minute to think about what is showing up for you right now. It might be some of these that I shared. It could be something else entirely. So take a moment. And I would love if you could formulate it in a sentence that goes something like, my limiting belief is. My limiting belief is. And I'll share the screen in a moment. But we're now going to begin a process of diving into this limiting belief, this one that you have chosen. And know that I'm asking you to choose one just for the purpose of this exercise. But you can take yourself on this same process for all of the other limiting beliefs that you're working with. Because remember, we're human. Lots of us have lots of these things going on at once, and that's okay. And I always say we don't need to go into this work with the massive goal of getting rid of them totally to begin with. Can we treat ourselves with some compassion and just be like, I want to become more aware of them. I want to explore them, because the more aware we become of them, the less hold they have on you. So the first thing that I'm going to ask you to do is simply get your pen, get your paper, and just write the sentence, my limiting belief is, and then write that write it in the sentence. So your sentence might look like, my limiting belief is, if I ask what I want, I'll get rejected. My limiting belief is, making money is hard. My limiting belief is, it's too late for me to pursue my dreams. My limiting belief is, I can't trust anyone, otherwise I'll get hurt. So I'd love you to write that in a sentence. Thank you, Sophia, for sharing that. Perfect example of writing that in a sentence. My limiting belief is, I'm not worthy or deserving. And why I've asked you to write it like that in that short, sharp sentence is, as soon as you say, my limiting belief is, I'm not worthy, you are releasing the fact that that is a truth. Because the words in front of it are saying, my limiting belief is, I'm not worthy, rather than you just saying, I'm not worthy. If you say, my limiting belief is, I can't trust anyone, you are straight away releasing the fact that that is your truth. And you are announcing to the universe, to the world, to whatever it is that you believe in, this is what's going on for me. This is a limiting belief that I have, and I am taking action to work on it. So that simple step one of identifying it and becoming aware of it can be super powerful in beginning to shift it. I'm now going to take you through some more questions to help you dive a little deeper. I won't share the screen with you just yet. I will in a moment. Question one is to ask you, when do you notice it? So again, if you're watching us live or on the replay, pen, paper, phone, notes, however you like to take notes, start to write down the triggering situations. And this is really, really powerful in helping you build up that level of awareness. When do you notice that limiting belief come into your mind? So I'm going to give you some examples with the, let me go back to the screen, with some of these limiting beliefs. Some of the triggering examples for, I can't trust anyone, or otherwise I'll get hurt, might be every time that that woman started a conversation with a new guy, she would start to feel like, oh, he's getting too close, I don't know if I can trust him. Or whenever she started to feel like she had feelings for somebody, she starts to put up that wall of like, oh, damn, I'm going to get hurt. So for her, her triggering situations could be anytime she goes on a date. Her triggering situation could be anytime a guy speaks to her. Her triggering situation could be anytime she thinks about dating. Anytime she starts to develop deep feelings for someone, that is like a massive trigger for I can't trust anyone, otherwise I'll get hurt. Let's give a totally different example so that you can see that this work is the same regardless of what area in your life you are working on limiting beliefs in. So that one of I don't have enough experience or I don't know enough. Say you're say you do something like what I do. Say you're a life coach, and you're just starting out, so you're kind of new to this work and you're new to showing up online. So your limiting belief might be, I don't know enough. I don't have enough experience. Your trigger for that limiting belief could be every time you scroll Instagram and you see your competitors, other coaches, you see them sharing their posts and they sound like they know exactly what they're doing. It could be every time you open up Facebook and see people running a live stream and you're like, oh, damn, I couldn't. It's actually funny that I'm using this example, but like, oh, damn, I could never do what that person is doing right now, but like I should be. So these could be your triggers. So that first question I'm asking you to do is start to note down the things that trigger that belief in you. And why that is important is because the clearer, let's say, you get on your triggers, the clearer you get on what's triggering the limiting belief, the quicker you can stop that limiting belief in the process. Because if you go into a situation, we'll use the example of the life coach. If you, every time you open up Instagram, you know that belief of, I don't know what I'm doing, or I don't have enough experience. If you know that's going to come up, you can go into Instagram ready, prepared. So that first question, start to note down your triggers, and that can be a running list. Anytime you feel that belief come up, write what happened just before and start to build it. So have like one page in your notebook. If you like want to get deep into this work, have like a notebook. If you're a limiting beliefs geek like I am, you could have a notebook just for like starting to become aware of your stuff. Second question I want you to dive into is to explore, and this can sometimes be a little confronting, to explore how this limiting belief benefits you in some way. How this limiting belief benefits you in some way. And most of the time, the reason why we are holding on to the beliefs is because they have some protection or a false protection. Limiting beliefs stay because they serve some kind of purpose that is not helping us achieve our goals, but it's keeping us safe. So I'm going to go back to the earlier example of Sophia, the one of I can't trust anyone, otherwise I'm going to get hurt. So that is actually stopping her from getting what she really wants, which is deep down a deep loving connection with a man, but it's benefiting her, false benefiting her, is because it's stopping her from getting hurt. She vowed she was never going to get hurt that badly again. She put up that barrier, she put up that wall. That limiting belief is providing her with some kind of protection. Limiting beliefs keep you safe, they stop you taking risks, they keep you comfortable. And we like to be comfortable. We like to be comfortable. They keep us where we are. And even if where we are isn't where we want to be, it's comfortable because it's where we know. So how does it benefit you in some way? Write it down. Write down what those benefits are so you can get clear on why it's still there. Why is it still there? And then maybe a little easier for you to say, for you to write down is, how is it damaging for you? How is it damaging for you? Simply, what is it stopping you from doing? Sophia's one, that limiting belief was stopping her from the loving relationship. The example of the coach, of comparing themselves to other people, that was actually stopping them from getting on the gram and posting and sharing her heart and sharing the things that she wanted to share. That limiting belief was stopping her from showing up and having an amazing business. So how simple terms, what is this stopping you from doing? What is this actually stopping you from doing? Get clear on that so that you know this limiting belief really doesn't need to be there anymore. A few more questions and then we're going to start to look at shifting this belief. Get clear on, if you can, and this could be something that you take with you for homework, get clear on what the source of the belief could be, and also maybe how long you have held it. So often these beliefs don't just appear like yesterday. We've had them from many, many, many years. Let me give you some examples. And this is useful in us knowing that limiting beliefs that we're holding on to in business might not have started in business. They might not have anything to do with business. This idea of, for example, the making money is hard. Maybe you're like, that's a big limiting belief you have in your business right now. Making money is hard. Money doesn't come easily. Yeah, that's a limiting belief that's holding you back in your business, but maybe it started when you were a child and you grew up in a family that had a scarce money story. You know, that was the root of that story for you. I don't have enough experience, or I don't know enough. That might be a limiting belief that's playing out in your business and is making you constantly compare yourself to other people. But maybe it started, again, when you were younger, in childhood, at school, when you felt like you were always the one that wasn't quite where you should be compared to your friends, compared to your siblings, etc., etc. So if you can, again, the reason why I'm asking you to do this is because the more that we understand our beliefs, the more that we build a colorful picture of them, the less hold they have on us. So I'm going to go back to that screen, and I'm just going to give you a moment or two. There's some extra questions in there. Don't worry about the questions I haven't asked you yet. But I'm going to give you a moment or two to scribble down any notes. I know we're doing this via live stream, but I like to give you some real time to think through this stuff and how it plays out in your life. When do you notice it? The triggering situations. How does it benefit you? How is it damaging for you? Ignore the extra questions for now. What's the source? How long have you held on to it? Then my favorite one, my favorite one is, when has it been wrong? Which takes me on to something powerful that we all need to know. This is a big factor in knowing why they're still there. Our minds like us to be right. They prefer us to be right than to be happy. If you want to kind of Google more the psychology of it, feel free to Google cognitive dissonance. It's this idea that we have a cognitive bias towards seeking evidence that backs up a belief that we have already held. And we ignore evidence that suggests otherwise. So with first an example that is not in the field of limiting beliefs, let's say, the example that, say you have the belief of left-handed people are more creative than right-handed people. So you've got that belief. And then you might, every time you see a left-handed person that is creative, that backs up that belief that you have. You're like, oh yeah, see, that left-handed person is creative. That supports that previously held existing belief. But here's the bias. Every time you then see a left-handed person that's not creative, you kind of disregard it. You don't take that into account. Every time you see a right-handed person that's that is creative, you kind of disregard that and don't take that into account either. So cognitive bias makes you disregard the other evidence and just look at the evidence that backs up your previously held belief. And this is how limiting beliefs get in our way, because we constantly seek information, experiences, people, jobs, whatever, that back up our limiting beliefs. So we are continuing to mess with ourselves. We are continuing to keep us in that place. So something really powerful and homework that I always give, again, another page, bullet point, all the experiences when the limiting belief has been wrong. So for the first example, the example of Sophia, maybe like actually she hadn't been able to trust. There'd been many people that she could trust. She could trust her friends, she could trust her family. There were guys that she had been able to trust. Maybe also there'd been many examples in front of her, even if it's not in her personal life, but with her brothers, her uncles, or whatever, of other men that were in faithful relationships, let's say, as an example. But she totally, up till now, has been disregarding that evidence. That evidence has that evidence has gone against her limiting belief, but she's been disregarding it, and she has only been focusing on the evidence that has backed up her previous belief. So start to bullet point all of those times, experiences where actually the limiting belief has been wrong. And once you've done that, those questions that I've asked you, and just bear in mind that and I always say this, I'm taking you through quite a condensed version of the process that I would take clients through with, but I still want you to leave with something valuable today, and hopefully an insight in how to start looking at these on a deeper level. So once you've done that digging, that exploration, that like, let's see what's been going on there, I would love you to decide and write a more empowering belief instead. And if you are watching live, I would love you to share what it is in the comments. So what would a more empowering belief be for yourself? If your limiting belief was, I can't trust anyone, otherwise I'll get hurt, it might not feel realistic, let's say, for your new empowering belief to be, I can trust everyone, right? But maybe your new empowering belief could be, I'm in the process of opening up to the people that are trustworthy, or I'm learning to see which people I can trust, or I am inviting in people that deserve my trust and attention, for example. So it doesn't have to be a straight swap, but it can be if that works for you. So take a moment to think about your limiting belief, and take a moment to think about what would be a more empowering version of that belief. If you're struggling, if it doesn't feel realistic, if you don't feel like you fully believe it yet, that's okay, because remember, you have spent many, many years probably with that deep-seated limiting belief. So if the new empowering belief feels unrealistic, like that's okay, right? It's okay that it doesn't feel like you could just switch it straight away. But we are practicing saying it anyway. We are practicing writing it down anyway. And if you prefer, a really nice way to trick the subconscious mind is to use the words like, I am in the process of, or I am working on, or I am committed to. So I am in the process of, I'm looking, let me share this screen again. So these common limiting beliefs. If you're working on some more empowering beliefs to shift some of these, yeah, I gave you the example for I can't trust anyone. I lack motivation or willpower. Could be I'm working on focusing on the things that I really want to focus on, or I can prioritize my time. If I ask what I want, I'll get rejected. It could be your new empowering belief, could be, and this doesn't have to be fancy. We're like, skip the fanciness, skip making it anything difficult. Your new empowering belief for if I ask for what I want, I'll get rejected, could be I can express my needs with ease. And if there's hesitation that you're like, no, I can't, notice the hesitation. Maybe you need to add on at the beginning, I am in the process of expressing or learning to express my needs with ease, for example. So write a new empowering belief for yourself, one that you would love to embody, one that you are starting to work on embodying. And yeah, if you're watching, share with me in the comments. I would love to see these new empowering beliefs so I know what yes, I love that, Sophia. I'm learning to be kind on myself. Nice. This, and if you keep it quite short as well, this can be, you can use it as an affirmation. You can begin to use it as something that you affirm to yourself daily. So what I'm going to take you through, so we're starting to, like last little part of this, what I'm going to take you through is just some ways to begin to embed this new belief, just some practical things that you can start to do from like today, by the way. I would love you to start doing them from today. There is no better time than to start working on these down right now. So first up, we'll do like a 1 minute meditation check-in. So again, if you're watching now or later, I'm going to invite you to imagine that limiting belief had just come into your mind. So remember earlier I asked you to write down the triggering situations. Imagine one of those triggering situations has just come to your mind. And now imagine that this is what we do. So this is what I would love you to practice doing from now, like all of the time. So imagine you'd been that coach and you've been scrolling on Instagram and you just had the, oh, I'm not as good as her. As soon as that thought pops into your mind, if you're in a place where you can close the eyes, drop the eyes closed. If you're not, feel free to keep them open. So close down the eyes, shut off one of your senses, take 3 deep breaths. Deep breath in, sigh out through the mouth. 2 more, breathing in, breathing out. So just to calm the body down. 1 more breath in, 1 more breath out. Notice any resistance in the shoulders, the neck. And then simply say your new belief 3 times. As an affirmation, like Sophia, I'm learning to be kind on myself. I'm in the process of expressing my needs, whatever. And that's it. So that's just one 1 minute thing that I would love you to do from today. Every time you notice limiting beliefs come up. Like I said, this stuff doesn't need to be fancy. I want you to release the idea that this should be complicated, that this should be hard. It is just about putting into practice regular tools and practices to start to rewrite the way that you have been being and showing up in the world. So a few more things for future commitment before we finish with a little visualization. What habits or rituals could you do just to kind of strengthen your new belief? So I'm a big fan of mirror work. Get in front of the mirror daily for a minute, new affirmation, or just look at yourself and start to fully embody, practice embodying your new belief. Do this especially if you feel resistance, especially if you feel awkward standing in front of the mirror looking at yourself, saying nice things to yourself, which, by the way, so many people find that awkward, which is kind of crazy because we so desperately want to receive those words of love and affirmation and support from others. And when it comes to giving it to ourselves, we're like, I don't know if I can do that. Favorite quotes that support this. Start to put in your awareness as many things as possible that support the new way of being so that your mind can practice seeing them. Because remember, for so long, for many years, maybe, depending on how old you were, if the initiating experience of the limiting belief happened when you were like 10, your limiting belief could have been there for like 30 years up till now. So we need to begin to bring in little practices to show our minds new ways of operating and being. So quotes, stick them on your wall, stick affirmations on your laptop, songs, listen to songs that feel empowering. role models that act the way that you would like to start to embody, not as a comparison thing, but more like, how can I be inspired by the way this person is showing up in the world? And then actions. One last thing before we do the visualization together. Actions are really, really important because we make shifts in our lives from taking action, from taking small but consistent action. You do not have to dive into the hard stuff straight away, but ask yourself that limiting belief that you had when I asked you to name one of them that you wanted to work through. What is that stopping you from doing? What is it stopping you from doing? And what would feel kind of uncomfortable for you to start to do today? And how can you begin in a way that doesn't feel too challenging to begin to embody that new empowering belief? So if you, the example of the coach that's comparing themselves when they post stuff online, so stop sharing anything at all, your action might be simply to begin to share, to show up on Instagram stories, to start to post things that you feel kind of uncomfortable posting, but you're doing it anyway. The biggest way for us to make shifts in our lives is to take action, to act as if we were embodying that new belief. We do not need to wait until we feel like we're embodying the new belief for us to take action. It actually doesn't work that way. We start to take the action regardless, and then that new belief starts to become a way of being. So we're going to finish up with a visualization. And this is something else that's super powerful to help us, to help our minds to believe the ways that we can be, the way that we would like to be, because our minds like to see stuff, you know, to really believe that something is possible. Our minds like to be able to see it first. And this is a way of seeing what you could be like without, you know, physically seeing. So I'm going to ask you to close down the eyes and just take a moment or so to just notice the body. Notice if there are any tensions that you can feel, anything that feels open, expansive. And then just begin to notice your breath. And with each exhale that you take, just allow yourself to soften a little further into the space. And when you're feeling rested, just begin to picture in front of you a version of you that is fully embodying this belief, this empowering belief, the one that you are desiring, feeling, being. So you're visualizing, you're picturing this version of you that is fully embodying that way of being that is supportive for your desires, for your deepest, darkest, not darkest, your deepest, most powerful dreams. And begin to notice, what does that version of you look like? What does that version of you feel like right in this moment? If that limiting belief was not there at all, where are you in that moment? Notice where you are. Notice if there are other people there. Notice what they see in you as they look at this you, this most empowered version of you. And start to build up a picture of exactly what's going on for you in that moment. What you're wearing, how you're carrying your body, how you're moving, how you're feeling inside and outside. how you feel when you look into the mirror. And just take a moment or two more to fully feel with every pore of your being what that version of you feels like that is fully embodying that belief, that empowering belief. And know, by the way, that this version of you is not somebody else. It is you, the you that is sitting here right this moment. Just take one deep breath in and a deep breath out. And then just open up the eyes whenever you're ready. Take a moment to just let the light back in, come back to the room. And ask yourself, how can I begin to show up as this version of myself? I'm asking you to make a commitment. For now, write down 3 commitments, 3 actions that you will be taking from now. They can be anything. They don't need to be big. Small but achievable, to get our mindset in the space of like, yeah, I'm doing this, it's working, is often better than overachieving and not doing anything. What 3 things can you do from today to act as if you are fully embodying the new belief, even if you don't fully feel it yet? How can you begin to act as if? I'm going to give you a moment or two to write those 3 actions. And as you're writing, actually, let me share the next slide. I have a free ebook all on this stuff that I've shared, basically. I should have probably said at the beginning, you don't need to you don't need to screenshot the slides or anything, because pretty much everything that I've shared that's on the slides is in here. The questions, the what limiting beliefs are. So if you want to take some time this lockdown to journal this stuff and to really work on them, then you can grab that. And my details are here if you want to connect. My Instagram's just my name, sabi.kerr, website, emails there. I love chatting about this stuff. If you do any of these actions this week, feel free to drop me a message and tell me so I can cheer you on, because something really powerful is knowing that we're not alone in this. Whenever, and I love to do this stuff in person, definitely, and in workshops where I can see your faces, because when we see that we are all in this stuff together, when we see that what you're working on is the same thing that what the person in front of you is also working on, there is this feeling of like, yeah, I'm not in it alone. We can all begin to work on this and support each other through this stuff. And that could be a really powerful shifter. So feel free to reach out to me, stay connected with me, stay connected with anyone else that you know right now is also using this time for their transformation, for diving deep, for exploring all of this work. That can be really, really powerful too. And it doesn't have to be serious. Have some fun with it. Enjoy this process of stepping into a you that is more empowered, stepping into a you that, is a you that is more supportive of the things that you really want to call in. I'm going to leave you with like a Wayne Dyer quote, because why the hell not, right? Change the way you look at things, and the things that you look at change. Shift your perspective, flip your beliefs, reframe those limiting beliefs that have been holding you back for so long. And then the things that you'd previously looked at begin to change, not because they've changed, simply because the way that you are viewing them, the way that you are viewing the world, the way that you are viewing the experiences that maybe are already in front of you, those things start to change because you are changing what's going on internally. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you guys so much for those of you that have joined live, and for those of you who will catch later on. Even if you're watching this later on the replay, I would still love to hear your feedback. I'd love you guys to drop in the comments any of your main takeaways. any kind of things that have come up for you of like, oh yeah, like that was interesting. Drop in the comments what your new beliefs are. I would love to know which things you're like really, really working on so I can cheer you on. Any questions in the meantime, yeah, reach out. Thank you guys. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. Oh, thank you, Eva. I'm so glad you were able to join us live. We'll see you guys soon.
Thank you, Sabi, so much for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge. I think this is very valuable, especially during these times more than ever. And we do have a few questions that came up. One is, and I think you touched on it a little bit briefly, but do you recommend having a belief journal to start uncovering some of those beliefs that no longer may be serving you or maybe holding you back?
Totally. If you're a person that's big on journaling, then having, which I mean is everyone should be, is super powerful to to reflect on your own thinking, is to write stuff down. Obviously I'm a massive advocate for coaching or getting a coach or getting a friend that can call you out on your BS is great. But another powerful way too is to get your shit out on paper, and then you can see what was going on inside your head. So if you have a journal that's reserved for your beliefs, that would be amazing. And to start to add like the things that I talked about earlier, noting your triggers, having like an area for that you can note all of those down, a page or two where you note all of the evidence against the limiting belief, build up your bank of which is building up the bank of evidence to be like, yeah, that's not true. That's really empowering for you to look at that whenever you need to. So yeah, totally. Journal it all out.
Perfect. And another question is, how can I tell if something is a limiting belief or something that is truly a limit?
That's a good one. I think a few things, knowing where it's come from. I would love really, it's hard to say without examples, an example of like what that is. Knowing where it's come from and hopefully by doing a little bit more exploration, that, for example, like I don't have money. Let's give like that one, right? Often I find that it's not about the money when people have money fears. It's about something deeper. Sometimes it really is just, I have zero in my bank account. I don't have money right now. Like that could be a real limit that's stopping you. But often I find that I don't really have the money, or I'm not so good with money. That's a limiting belief. It's not a limit, because you've built up over time the feelings of not feeling good with money, which has led you to stay where you are. Whereas if you've had a great money story, you've been feeling pretty financially abundant, and then something happened and your bank account went to zero, like maybe that's a real limit. It is a tricky line to kind of navigate through, but I think the more you start doing the exploration and answer some of the questions that I asked, you'll start to see if there is something deeper underneath them. And anytime, actually, maybe this is a clearer way to decide if it's a limiting belief or just a limit. Anytime that you feel some emotion coming up for you, that is a limiting belief. Anytime that it gets to your core of oh man, anytime that you feel those deeper emotions, that is a clear limiting belief, because limiting beliefs get to the core of our discomfort. So yeah, that's a really good way to know what's going on there.
Amazing. Thank you. And thank you again for sharing. If anybody has any questions after the event, I'm sure Sabi would be happy to answer via the feed. So anyone tuning in later. But again, Sabi, it is our pleasure to have you on. Thank you for coming all the way from London and streaming with us tonight and sharing your knowledge and wisdom. Yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll see you soon.
See you soon.
And everyone still watching, don't forget to block your calendars for next week, this coming Tuesday, for our next virtual Skillshare on the happiness of pursuit by Sarav Ara. So we will see you all next week. Enjoy, stay well, stay safe. See you soon. Thanks.